Hello, Dr. Olvera or Chris, or whoever's marking this. I'm Noah, and I'm going to be showing you really quickly our event managing system for dynamic sound. So, jumping straight into it, we have two different types of sound managers here, and they're just based on different types. We have our general type, and we have our dynamic type. The dynamic type, our general type is simply just hitting a threshold, and as we can see here, I just did a distance away. Which is checking if we're close enough to this big ball here, and then if we're not, it turns off the sound. If we also were to do something like change the player health to under 50, and we hit it again, or gotten the threshold, you can see that we play different sounds. That's really good for sound effects. If we want certain conditions to be met, we can do that very easily by throwing things to the DLL. So, on the other hand, we have this dynamic sound manager, and as you can see here, we have two sounds playing, but both of them attenuate, and their sound changes depending on how far away they are. So, I'm going to turn off the sound now just so that you can see it a little bit and not get distracted with the sound. But what you can see here is we're playing two different themes. We even have a threshold where at a certain point, the second sound will turn off once it gets so close to the actual sphere. So, how did we do this? Well, we can look into our code and see that right away with the C# implementation, really what we're doing here is sending through different factors that will be impacting our DLL. So that would be player health. That would be what audio sources we have. Audio sources generally are staying on here, but what we're getting for the audio sources is the volume. We're not changing these values in C#, we're actually changing them within the DLL. And we are also managing if they're getting turned on and off based on DLL distances. So, once we have our threshold distance away, I was changing that for the other one, but we also have threshold and things. We have elements that are taken here that are taken in from the DLL. Then we have an update loop, and in the update loop we have different things like our sound going through, sounds getting enabled, disabled if we are too far away, and we're not actually doing that with any on-collision enter or anything related to Unity. We're doing that within the DLL, and the way that we're doing it is we're putting through our positions of the object in the sphere, and then we are also getting the volume. So manage attenuation is a big DLL thing, but first I'm just going to go through sound type. Sound type is either going to be a 1 or a 2 value. We can add this to be more different values, but this is the way that we're going to be managing how different sounds will be working. So our general sound manager is a little bit different than the events that would take place within a dynamic manager. So if we go into the C++ code, we can see that, no, that's the C++ code. There we go. We can see that we have a couple of different functions here. We have manage attenuation, which is taking in the sphere and the object's positions in vector 3s. We have the sound type, which is just 0 or 1 for now, but that's needing to be known. We have set position, which is taking these, setting them as the position values that we have down here. And then we have calculate distance. That's important for knowing how much sound we need. And then calculating volume is based on the distance by a threshold value that we can actually send in as well. And then if the sound type here is equal to 1, then we can see that the volume 2 is being based off of that. But that's just for the dynamic sound, so we don't have to throw that through every time we're doing for instance, a sound effect. Detach is very important because we are making sure in this function that we are not too far away, and if we're farther away than the distance compared to the distance threshold that we have in the world space between the two positions of the sphere and the cube, then the sound will stop. And so that way we don't actually have to do on-collision enters or things relating to Unity. And then of course we have variant manager, which is determining things of player health, and it's checking that the player health that gets sent through, if it's more than 50 or less than 50, it's going to be changing the variant and then returning that back in. All right, I think that's about it, and that's about 5 minutes. So, hope you enjoyed.